Well, good morning. Welcome back out with the camera. In Potes this morning, which is a town in the Picos de Europa National Park. Now, you may be saying to yourself, hang on, if you're in the Picos, surely you should be up one of those peaks. All in good time. We had hoped to do the Fuente Day cable car ride today and then wander back down the path, the trail, which takes about 5 hours or so. But as you might be able to make out behind me, very inclement weather, especially up in the hills and especially this morning. So Nicola had quite a lot of work to do, so we just thought we would hang out in a very salubrious park-up spot out the back of a supermarket. So we came down into the town last night. Lots of little cobbled streets and sort of side alleyways and lovely traditional mountain houses. So I thought I'd come out this morning. Now, the light is ridiculously poor. We're about 5 minutes away from sunrise, no sunrise light to talk about, and I'm not even sure whether we're going to get any reasonable light for the shoot, which means you'll not actually see this vlog. One of the issues is going to be is up a lot of those little side alleyways, it's just extremely dark and dingy, and without any sort of light coming in, I'm not sure it's really going to work, but we'll go for a bit of a dander. I also feel a few spots of rain. Did say it was 50% chance of rain this morning, but we'll go for a dander and we'll see whether we can make something of it. So I've set up a little bit of a scene behind me here. Again, the light is nothing really. But I just thought it lent itself quite naturally to the feel of the town. Now, there are a couple of challenges. I think the scene itself works best in a portrait orientation, but the issue with that is because of the quite bland looking sky, you get a lot of that sky in. In a landscape orientation, whereas you remove a lot of that uninteresting sky, you actually bring in a lot more of the elements that I don't necessarily want to include, those being some white houses on the left hand side of the frame, and then there's also a restaurant up on the right hand side of the frame. Now, one could argue that that's part of the scene, but of course one of the tasks of the photographer is to choose what we put in the frame and what we remove. Now again, because of that very sort of blown out, uninteresting sky, probably going to make two images, one for the scene of the little town and then one for the sky. But as I say, I think it's going to be the horizontal image that lends itself best to remove a lot of that sky. But I think the portrait orientation, mostly because we've got this very natural sort of path leading down behind me, which I think does give you a better sort of view in on a portrait orientation. Now, with the sunrise kind of happening sort of over behind you guys, if we had any light, I think this would have been quite a nice scene. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on fine-tuning the composition. I know there's no light, but this is all about accepting the conditions in front of me and more working on composition and just seeing whether there is going to be a shot in there. You never know. We are hoping to spend a fair amount of time on the road over the next couple of years. I might find myself back in this spot when perhaps we can reshoot it under more favourable conditions. There were a couple of things in the scene that were sort of bother me a little bit. I think I already mentioned there's a couple of sort of different coloured houses. I wanted to keep the colour of all those houses to set one colour. But on one of those buildings there was sort of a red banner depicting, I guess it's an exhibition or something. Now what I did was I moved myself about 4 or 5 steps to the right hand side, and that provided me with a different viewpoint to perhaps have a portrait orientation without including too much of the sky, but including more of this path leading down. Now, this path kind of goes two ways. It snakes off to the left over the bridge, and it obviously disappears around the corner to the right. Now I felt that if I included too much sort of looking over on the right, your eye perhaps just followed that path on out. Oh, car coming, car coming. This didn't even look like a road. Anyway, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you down to the bottom of the bridge and we'll talk there. Be quite bad form getting run over. Yeah, so I felt your eye was maybe getting pulled around the right hand side, but in a portrait orientation, it allowed me to include much more of the path leading down, to angle the camera in such a way that I was removing this. In fact, you can just see the red banner now, removing that from the scene, and also including just enough sky. Here comes more cars. Clearly a throughfare for the early morning traffic. So including just a little bit of sky. Now again, from a technical side of things, bracketing, and just behind you there, I can see a little faint glow of light. Now I might head back up the hill here and see whether shooting back towards the sun is going to get anything. What I was hoping for, we were going to get a bit of a break and give us a little bit of light here. We might still get that. Anyway, so I think the second scene perhaps works a little bit better, just because I'm able to employ the portrait image. I'm able to remove any distracting colours for that red banner and the white houses, and I'm also able to include just enough of the sky to sort of give it context, because we are in the mountains, and I want to sort of have a little bit of a sort of nod to that. So anyway, I'll throw up this image and then we'll wander on and see whether there's something else we can find, while also trying not to get run over on a road that I didn't think was a road. So I ran back up the hill to see whether we could make anything of that glow, and I got one kind of random abstract image, and the glow has now disappeared. But what I noticed now, back you're looking the other way, you know, we might, as that sun rises up, a little gap coming through, we might get some light down on that scene. So all is not lost. There is a little bit of light now in those clouds, a little bit of sort of soft sort of amber glow in the clouds. But yeah, the scene here, horizontal image, the 18-135 right out at 135. I really need to start bringing my 1-400 out, because as we all know, the 18-135 is a little bit soft at 135, but I don't think it mattered too much to this here. Now, if I had had a bit more time, what I would have done was I would have thrown on probably a 4-stop ND to give me a longer exposure, 6-7 seconds, because I think that would have created a nice effect of that mist sort of rolling through the trees. Right, well, I'll throw this image up. It's a bit of a rush job, but I'll throw it up anyway, and then we'll carry on wandering. So I had a bit of a mad choice to make. I actually hung out up on that bridge for a while. I put the camera into a 16:9 crop overlay. I was just watching the clouds sort of dance around the peaks, and just as the light was starting to really to develop, the peak got completely shrouded in. But I noticed behind me that the little scene that I'd been shooting at the start of the morning was now bathed in some glorious light. So I had a choice: leave the peak, come down here, stay with the peak, and it might never appear, and lose the light down here. And I waited and I waited and I waited, and I came down here, as you can see. Now, the light's quite nice. It's reasonably rich and soft. I think that's because the sun that has now poked over the visible horizon is quite shrouded in a lot of its own cloud, which is sort of diffusing that quite nicely. Quite warm actually as well. But I still think the mountainy scene would have been the better scene if we had some light, or at least the visibility of the peak. But came back down here again, almost got run over by a car going up the street that isn't a street. But yeah, so I'll throw this image up and we'll wander on and see whether we can get another image. But that light might now all of a sudden start to become a little bit too harsh, but we'll see what we can do. So I'll throw this image up. I'm not sure I want to go up and see whether the peak has revealed itself again, but we'll see where our feet take us. So I brought myself up out of the village a little bit more and didn't come here last night, and so glad I did walk up, because I just love, now behind you there's two more of these arches. You can just about see the arches here. There you go. And in fact, some footage here to my right hand side. Your left shows the same archway from probably a good 100 odd years ago, and it doesn't look like things have much changed. But what really drew my eye here, now the light now has got a lot harsher, and in fact right now it is completely dissipated. So again, I was in a portrait orientation, making use just to sort of frame the top of the image with a little bit of that archway. But what was really appealing was just the two buildings, the one in the midground and the one in the background, just taking on a little bit of that early morning light. So I'm glad I came up this far. I'm not sure how many more images I'm going to be able to have, because I think that light now, it's kind of getting hidden behind a lot of cloud, and when it does come out, it's a little bit too harsh. But we'll wander on up. Haven't been up sort of on past here round to the left, so we'll go see whether there's anything to shoot up there. But I'll go ahead and throw this image up now, and we shall wander on. Once again, I've come up above the village, and it's just beautiful. And it just reminds me, being from the UK, you get transfixed in certain hot spots in the UK. Autumn in Scotland and winter in the Highlands and stuff. And then you come into Europe and you realise that not only in Europe but across the world there are just so many beautiful things to see. And this is one of the reasons why we travel, to spend time in places such as this, and hopefully not to rush through, but to just spend a bit of time. As we'll, I'm sure, talk about in our travel vlog from this area, we were starting to get a little bit frustrated because Nicola had a lot of work on. It became quite difficult to park, and we were sort of betwixt and between what to do. But we've got to realise that this is a very slow bimble, a lifestyle, and so hanging out in places like this, not too shabby at all. Well, as that sun starts to gain a little bit more heat, a little bit more strength, and a little bit more harshness, I'm going to wander back down to the van and grab a much needed coffee. No more images, but this has been started out dull and dank, had the potential to get an image I think I would have really liked, but we just didn't get the light and the visibility of the peak in one frame. And then we did get some light. We'll have to see whether that light was soft enough to make the image work. No, well, adelante. Buenos dias. And as you can see, my Spanish is as terrible as ever. I really wanted to say adelante. I think that's please go ahead. But I just went buenos dias. And on that Spanglish note, thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, take care. Bye-bye. Adelante. Buenos dias. este pueblo muy bonito.